Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. A little change of scenery here for the intro and outro today. So, throughout the course of doing Record-ology, I have been afforded the unique opportunity to pick up a couple of things that have tremendous sentimental value to me. And today's show is about one of those items. We are going to be looking at a boombox that had a tremendous personal meaning to me, and I want to quickly give you the story. So if you rewind back to the early 90s, compact discs were really hitting the mainstream at that point, and I remember they seemed so luxurious, so high-end, so fancy, and they were so cool to have a CD player that I was transfixed with the idea of getting my own CD player. And I remember one particular Christmas, it was probably the Christmas of probably December of 91, possibly of 92. I remember we were over at my aunt and uncle's house for Christmas Eve, and they had like a big component CD player, or a big component stereo that had a CD, single disc CD player. And I sat there all night, and while the families were doing everything else, and I just played this Hank Williams, which I didn't even care about Hank Williams back then, but this Hank Williams CD set over and over and over, and just tried out all the buttons and just played with all the features, and was just so transfixed, is the best word I can think of, on the idea of a compact disc, having been a child of tapes. Well, that night, I remember throwing a fit. Somehow I had made up in my mind I was not getting a CD player for Christmas, although that's what I really wanted. And I gave my parents a hard time, which I still feel bad about. But lo and behold, Christmas morning, there was the very boombox we're about to look at right now, which I had lost and recently refound. And I want to tell you that story and give you a full review of the Sony boombox that was in the thumbnail. I was about to say the model number, then I realized I don't remember what it is. So you're not going to want to miss this. Behold my beautiful Sony CFD55 compact disc boombox circa 1991. I recently picked this up locally for like $15 from a lady who had it, and I guess it was her son's, but he had taken immaculate care of it. I mean, it's in perfect, pristine condition. It needed very little cleaning. It looks brand spanking new. These are relatively rare. You can find them, but you don't come across them every day. I've been on the lookout for this for several years. So when I found this, I jumped at the opportunity, especially at $15. And I am so happy to have it. It's so incredibly nostalgic. And if you lived through the transition from compact or from tapes to CDs, you will remember probably how significant that was, how luxurious a compact disc seemed, to be able to skip songs, to have pure digital quality, to, just be on the forefront of technology, it felt like anyway, right? So early 90s is really when compact discs hit the mainstream. By the way, in preparing for the show, I went back and tried to find a picture of the Sears Wish Book catalog from either 91, 92, or 93. I could not find this anywhere. So if anybody can send me a link to a catalog showing the original listing for this, that would be cool. I'd probably post that in the community tab, something of interest. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a rundown of all the features. We're going to take a look at everything up close and then do a sound test. So the system that I had prior to this, and by the way, this is my very first new stereo system. Everything I had prior was a hand-me-down. I had a Sanyo dual cassette hand-me-down from my mother prior to this that had the kind of quasi surround sound thing with the 4 speakers. This has 2 speakers. Each speaker is covered in a black painted metal grill, and you can see the speaker itself has the chrome dust cap, chrome colored, dust cap. Those were very big back then. That's something you almost never see this day and age. The sound quality on this, by the way, is good. I mean, it's not the most incredible bass. I'm sure it's not the best sounding boombox of all time, but it definitely sounds full and rich. And this era, the early 90s, was really a transitioning period where, folks were starting to move off of CD or off of cassette onto CD. So you see these devices that have mixed formats, and almost every boombox is somewhere in the middle of different format changes. So this one represents the transition from tape to CD. As such, they don't make a huge deal out of the fact that it's got a tape player. In fact, they have the word CD written right on the tape door there. But I wanted to talk about the tape player because it had a single well, very capable cassette deck in it. So I definitely had tapes. I had more tapes than I had CDs when I got this thing. I remember I got 2 CDs for Christmas with it. I've got a Stephen Curtis Chapman album, and which is also nostalgic to me. And I also got Garth Brooks' Rope in the Wind. I remember that vividly. And then I had some birthday money, and I went out and got Run DMC's Greatest Hits. So it was pretty varied across the board. So for the transport controls on the tape deck, we have mechanical buttons, and the cassette goes inverted, as you can see down there. This is going to obviously be a high-quality Sony cassette mechanism with an actual stereo head, none of that Tanishin stuff. I mean, this is the real deal. When you got a piece of electronics like this, you weren't thinking, well, I can get a year out of that and upgrade. No, this was like an investment. It's a testament to the fact this unit is still in operation to this day. And let me get right to the point and say that I didn't have to fix anything. This thing works perfectly as is, and we'll give it a sound test. You can record, you can obviously play back, and it's fantastic. It does a great job. Everything that you would expect your cassette player to do in that era. Pardon how foggy this is. We're looking through the cassette door at a weird angle, but you can see there a stereo head and a pinch roller. Everything just looks, well greased, good condition. This had very, very, very little use and is pretty much in new condition still. What is it, 30 years later? This is insane. Absolutely amazing. Now, clearly the main attraction for this unit and for me was the compact disc player. To have an actual CD player, it was so mind-blowing. It's got this smoked, domed piece of plastic right there. You can see the disc inside. We've got a mechanical switch to open it, and then this textured area to push it closed. And the sounds like that, that very, clunky sound. I remember it vividly. Interesting to note, if you look at the CD mechanism itself, man, true to form, it looks way dustier on camera than it does to the naked eye. But see how it uses the old clamp style mechanism? So instead of there being a spindle where the CD would snap onto, it would actually just sit there loosely, and then this would come down and clamp down to secure the disc. Because of that, there's no anti-skip protection or anything like that, so you got to be a little careful. You can carry it while it's in operation. It doesn't really have anti-skip protection is what I'm trying to say. But on the obverse side of that is the fact that you don't have any compression artifacts from anti-skip technology. It is pure, uncompressed digital sound. So to look in and see this CD mechanism was it felt so exciting. I know it's hard to understand if you weren't there, but it felt so exciting. Now, if I go down here to this part here, I love how this is laid out with these controls up on top like this. So we've got this volume control right here. There's a good amount of drag on it. If I remember correctly, it didn't need much volume to get quite loud. It's got an operation/battery light, depending on if you're plugged in a hardwire or if you're running it off of batteries. We'll take a look at that in a minute. A function switch, so obviously CD is the one they highlight because that's what the main attraction is. FM, AM radio, tape, which is also the off position. I always thought that was weird. Like, why is that off? It doesn't come to life, the tape deck, unless it's in the off position and you actually hit play. Over here we have the bass boost, which why would you take that off? That was my mentality back then. Mix mic, isn't that interesting? You could perhaps sing to your favorite CDs and record them to tape at the same time as well. I don't think I ever did that. Sliding down here though, I do vividly remember this headphone jack. The green was sort of Sony's headphone jack identifier. Very fun stuff. I still think this thing looks good. I mean, 31 years later, it still looks fantastic to me. It's got the branded large handle here that goes across the top there. And if you move it, you'll hear this like ning, 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 ning. And that's the spring-loaded, this guy right here, kind of banging around a little bit. Even remember that sound as well, of that, the movement of setting it down and how that would give that kind of little twang sound. Let's look down in this area. So this is where you would control the CD player itself. It had obviously play, pause, and stop controls. You could skip through songs, obviously. You could search as well, which would basically fast forward through them or rewind through them. Change the play mode, so it intro or repeat or shuffle, all of that good stuff. You couldn't program, I don't believe it could program. And then you had some control on how you wanted the data displayed. And there's also the tuning dial, analog tuning dial for both AM and FM. Again, I doubt I used the radio that much. Maybe I did. No, I probably did use the radio somewhat. But yeah, it was this design aesthetic too, with a little touch of the teal coloration there. It's an interesting time from a styling aesthetic. It had some of that 80s vibe mixed with the new 90s modernism that was taking over at the time. And we've got an FM stereo light indicated to light up red once you hit stereo. So let's look around back. So it's got about 1.5 million different screw holes, and I'm not going to try and take this apart because I really don't want to damage it. And these are the type of devices that these screws, you'll notice this line right here, that's sort of the mounting point, where that's the middle point of the unit. So this whole back half is sort of a giant clamshell. So that's why these are so dark and deep, is they go all the way back to here. So you need a really long screwdriver to get a lot of that stuff out. Not all of them are that way, but some are. As I said previously, it does run on AC power or batteries. And if we look in the battery compartment here, pretty dang clean. I don't really see a whole lot of corrosion. A little bit, maybe. No, I don't think I see any corrosion. It's just really clean. Was probably, only powered off of AC. And this was actually made in Korea, not Japan. So that's interesting. And then AC power here, we've got the jack. And I do have the original cable, which is still in working order. And it's sort of this figure of 8, as Techmoan says, but flat on one end. So we'll plug it in like that. Oh, yeah. And it's funny how the little things, you remember the little things. I remember this little white tip on the antenna here. Not something that I had seen, kind of before or since, but I do remember that white tip, and it, obviously still seems to work okay. So let's go ahead and fire it up. I'm going to switch to the front-facing mics, and we'll do a stereo sound test. Rather than do direct feed, let's just listen to it ambiently. Let's listen to the speakers. You guys let me know what you think about the sound quality. Okay, I've tried to pick a position where you can get a good representation of the stereo, at the same time kind of see the controls and whatnot without a million cutaway shots. So it is in the off position right now. Let's start by listening to the radio. I'm going to extend the aerial, the antenna. You listen to enough Techmoan, you start talking like him. So let me flip this up to FM to begin with. And there is, I don't think I mentioned this, there is a tone control. So we'll just, for the sake of this, we'll put the tone control at neutral, and we'll put the bass boost on. So let's go up to FM radio.
Parts, Steel Bros Heating and Armstrong Egg.
Freshest produce. That's why we...
When we were taking calls. Into game 2. Can both teams keep up?
The answer to the almost impossible question of...
There's my promise land.
At Champion, we make buying new windows easy. Your loyalty program. Featuring
now, some people say they love it when I do this so they could just hear the local radio. I think it's fun too. But the tuner is very, very sensitive. We're picking up a lot of stuff on the dial there. Every time I just move it a tad bit, we haven't even gone maybe a half of the way yet down that dial, and it's already picking up like crazy. Volume was at about 20%, if that, and it was easily filling a medium-sized room with good sound. Again, it's not the most bassy sound, but it's light years ahead of the modern stuff that you can buy brand new right now. It's light years ahead of that in terms of its robustness, in terms of its build quality, everything. It just, to me, it's just another realm.
When the legal nightmare begins. Tom Bodette for Motel 6.
What I doing then? I came out. Gathers.
It's where memories are made. En el mall, en el supermercado.
Radio.com/tote.
Country.
All the time.
So help us. Call us at 1-800.
See in Joe Biden.
I don't know if a lot of people are talking about it.
So let's flip
Type in
to
window.
AM now and give it an AM test.
This is the book that's my story.
Sounds like AM.
That work. As a lender.
Number take. Ball one. Cooper's had a good day.
Besides Canada.
Spiritual in of Christ.
Hiring now in Denver.
Not as much going on there, is there? Not as much going on in the AM world. But, you know, I think it does as good as any other AM radio would, right? It's going to pick up what's out there. All right, now let's try cassette. Man, even hitting this, you hear that ding sound? It's so funny because I thought my mind had deleted that sound, but nope, there it is. Okay, we're going to listen to the tape next, and this is an opportunity to open a brand new old stock cassette deck here. This is a world's greatest bluegrass bands, never been opened tape here. So I think this is from my wife's family. I don't think they'll mind if we're going to enjoy it. So we're going to open that tape and give it a listen. All right. You can see the leader there, 1977. And we're going to put it in. I remember at the time thinking that tape decks that required you to put the tape upside down were not quite as cool as the ones where you could put them right side up. If you tried to peek through the window and, see what the song titles were, you had to kind of twist your neck. Also, if you notice, there's like these 3 red dots there. I kind of thought that was funny how is that supposed to help you see how far you are on in the tape? It's more of a design element. Also thought it was interesting how tape players always had this triangle. That never made sense to me. I never quite got it. I know it has to do with the direction. By the way, another word on the tape deck technology, it does feature one-touch recording, which simply means, and again, for those of you born, after I was, you'll have no idea why this was a thing. But in the old days, you had to push play and record at the same time to record. With this, you only had to press record and it would hold the play down as well. That was a thing. I mean, that was a feature. Auto shut off, meaning that it would stop the tape when it got to the end. Again, you may be saying that's a feature? Yes, that was a feature. So let's go ahead and play the tape. And I'm going to fast forward so we can get into hope I'm not in tape mode. All right, so I'm going to fast forward so we can get into the music, and let's listen to the fidelity.
I see lots of kids these days in jeans of faded blue. They never saw me.
Sounds pretty clean. I'm going to fast forward some more. Also, I noticed, too, that it seems like higher end, name brand, Panasonic, Sony, stuff like that, the rewinds seem to be faster. Did it ever seem that way to you? Like they would rewind or fast forward quicker?
We're in the things we used to eat. Chicken on Sunday, beans on Monday.
Turnip greens and spam.
Go ahead and turn up the tone a little bit. It's a little muddier than the radio, but it sounds smooth. It sounds full. It sounds rich. I don't hear any hiss, really. And the stereo imaging is good. I feel like some boom boxes are so small these days that, stereo speakers are almost next to each other. But with this, you really got some separation. Now, these will be full range speakers, meaning that they're a single speaker. You don't have a tweeter, a subwoofer, or a mid-range speaker. It's one cone that will do it all, probably a paper cone. And that means that there's no cutoff for highs, cutoff for lows. It's got to do the full range. So it's more work for a single speaker to do than one that's, got a high pass or a low pass in place. And these speakers seem to perform well. They have good low end. In fact, I feel like it's centered, below the neutral point. I feel like it's got a warm overall sound to it, but it definitely can get up there and represent those highs, which is really cool. All right, now main attraction. Let's go for the CD. This doesn't have a ton of features. It does CDs, tapes, and radio, but that's all you ever needed back in the day. So we're going to go up to CD mode. We're going to place our compact disc, which is Dinner in Paris. I'm going for something different. I'm trying to give you guys ears something different to listen to besides Enoch Light. So yeah, you put it in there and you're ready to go. Down here, this screen comes to life. It is a bit dim. There's still some decent contrast if you tilt it up, though. A very typical LCD screen with sort of the green hue to it and the darker green characters. And like I said, it's kind of faded from this angle, but if you tilt it up, you can definitely see. Now, if I go to display/enter, I think that's just going to show me either, you know, the track listing or the remaining time left on the song. Play mode is not going to do much more than switch between shuffle, intro, or random, you know, repeat, stuff like that. You're not going to be able to program tracks. So let's hit play and give this a listen. This should be nice and bright. Wow. Back to 20%. It's just so loud. I must be on intro mode. It's skipping. It's playing the first 10 seconds. Just pure, perfect music. It's just very sharp, very accurate. So yeah, it sounds great. It sounds great. Now, as an homage to my foolish younger self, I'm going to do something that you're not supposed to do, but you had to do it at least once as a kid, and that is to open this while it's playing. So there you go. That's the that's the move that we all did at least once. We had to open it while it was playing. But I mean, $15 to not only recapture something that was very memorable to me, but something that's a very functional, high quality, and good condition. There's no reason why this shouldn't last for another 20 years. I mean, the first thing that would go would be the belt on the tape player, but it's still intact apparently. It seems like it does fast forward, rewind, it plays fine. I haven't done a recording test on it yet, but would tend to believe that's in good condition as well. So very thankful to have the Sony CFD 55 boombox. So throughout the course of Record-ology, I've been able to reunite with multiple items that I had from my childhood. And one of those was the Fisher-Price record player that we got back from 1979. We got back the Iowa little cassette player, the exact one that I had, not the exact one, but the same model that I had, and the Sony D131 portable, and now this. Incredibly blessed. But I want to hear from you when it comes to boomboxes specifically. Which one did you have? Because usually you're those formative years of, you know, being a kid or a preteen, and you get your first stereo system. It's a pretty, for me anyway, it was a memorable thing. So for you, what was that one thing that was yours, your very first boombox? Let me know down in the comments below. All right, my friends, thank you as always. That's going to do it for now. Whew, it was fun. It was fun. I was big surprise. Did not expect to do this, but I was so glad we were able to. And I thank you very much for being there. Happy record hunting, guys. We'll see you next time.